Hello, everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for being here, good friends. Thank you for your practice. I am here, an envoy of the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lotus method of self-enlightenment, as elucidated by Bodhisattva Nichiren. Thank you for joining me, Sifu Sylvain Chamberlain, the Threefold Lotus Kuan. I am the abbot of this school. Thank you for growing the Sangha. You know, when you take a moment to like and subscribe, it's an act of propagation, so it's a Bodhisattva act. Thank you for doing that. We're going to talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. How does it relate to our modern practice of Buddhism? Well, this is what this book is about. This is what my practice is about. This is what this channel is about. The website, threefoldlotus.com. By the way, not only can there's a link page to the ebooks there. You can go to Lulu and .com and get the printed books. But there's a large compendium of facts and documents and research there on the study materials page, the core study materials page. Just listed, there's over 100 links there. And this Noble Eightfold Path will be fully flushed out with long descriptions on each of the paths, or folds, I suppose you would say. And I don't want to go through every one of them ad nauseum that way in this book. I'm going to refer to them all. We'll get a good description, and then I'll describe how Nichiren basically encompasses this early teaching for our modern practice of Buddhism. We don't leave it behind. We don't eschew it, but it evolves. Just like our discussion of the Nidana becomes the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, right? It's a step-by-step evolution of capacity to understand the mind. Buddhism is about the mind. So we'll start out with a pretty detailed explanation from Wikipedia, which I trust because this is such an old teaching. A lot of people have been able to flush this out. And then we'll move into Nichiren's, not his attempt to interpret the Noble Eightfold Path, because it's ancient. But I want to demonstrate through the comparison, the evolution over 50 years of Shakyamuni's teachings of what the Eightfold Path has become. Now, the Eightfold Path being rules, moral ethics of behavior, right? And ultimately that behavior becomes more and more honed over time to a singular overriding behavior. But we start out with 8, and he's dealing with people who've never had these ideas that they could influence their own lives, because they've been told their lives are what their lives are. There's, things like destiny. It's already, it's imprinted on you. You'll never be able to change. You'll always be this. Just deal with it. And now Shakyamuni comes along and says, oh, no. You may have a different starting point than others, but you're able to influence it any way that you feel strongly toward. You can change the direction of your life. What? Yeah. And in order to change, there are certain things you have to observe about your social interactive behavior with others. Now, ultimately, as Buddhists, we know that all of that social interaction, although it seems on the surface to be a way that you externally behave differently, requires firstly a seed within yourself. But they weren't quite there yet. They would. Even the 8th Noble Path, notice it's the last one, is about samadhi. It's about internal, right? So there's this beginning to reflect. on what our behavior is, how we perceive our behavior, and what is the seed of that behavior. We're getting closer to the formations, right? So here we go. Noble Eightfold Path from Wikipedia. The eight-spoke Dharma wheel symbolizes the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, where'd that come from? You can look that up if you want, but you'll see all kinds of early representations, right, that are circular, that are the Dharma wheel, turning the wheel of the law. You'll hear allusions to this all the time, and we talked about it in the last video. The wheel with its small patch of contact with the ground, samsara, while all of this reality is not perceived as you're on the ground, to open your mind to that entirety, right? So the eight-spoke Dharma wheel symbolizes the roots of behavior, observation, really, of the turning of the engine of life. But that comes later, right? But that's what it is. So here, to continue. The Eightfold Path, in Pali, there's a Pali translation, a Sanskrit translation, is an early summary of the path of Buddhist practices leading to liberation from samsara, the painful cycle of birth and death in the form of nirvana. Now, I've italicized all of those terms because they're in this book too. So you can see the interconnectedness and see that this teaching, although it's appealing to look at it on the surface and say, well, it changed constantly. Well, it didn't really. What changed was its method of teaching because of the capacity of the audience, right? You don't teach a 4-year-old calculus, right? You have to prepare the child, the young mind, to conceptually understand things that lead to the usefulness of words like fluctuation, right? The Eightfold Path consists of 8 practices, and I put it to you that the practices are simply behaviors, really human social behaviors. I say it right here. I should just read what I wrote. And they are listed, and again, on threefoldlotus.com, you can see in the document, each one of these will be flushed out with at least a paragraph, if not more, of defining what it means to say, 1, right view. What the heck is right view? 2, right resolve. 3, right speech. And you can begin to muse on that. 4, right conduct. 5, right livelihood. You might not have thought about that. 6, right effort. 7, right mindfulness. Be aware of what you're doing, what you are, what the world and the universe is. That's a big one. 8, right samadhi, which is a meditative absorption or union, alternatively equanimous meditative awareness, right? Different than mindfulness. Different how? Well, you can read that document, but for our purposes, you'll see how this evolves into a much more sophisticated thinking in Nichiren. Well, actually, Shakyamuni, right? The Lotus Sutra. In early Buddhism, these practices started with, and I'm proud that Wikipedia points out that this is early teachings. In early Buddhism, these practices started with understanding that the body-mind works in a corrupted way, right view, followed by entering the Buddhist path of self-observation, self-restraint, and cultivating kindness and compassion, and culminating in dhyana, or samadhi, which reinforces these practices for the development of the body-mind. So early Buddhism is so focused on just getting people to understand the connection that their physical life has with their mind, their thought processes. This was brand new thinking at the time. Not so much that people didn't know they were thinking, but that their thinking could actually impact their physical life. That was new. So, in later Buddhism, and this is italicized, so I'm thinking this is my addition in here. May not be, maybe from Wikipedia. I should define that better. My apologies. In later Buddhism, insight, prajna, right, perfection of wisdom, became the central soteriological instrument, leading to a different concept and structure of the path, in which the goal of the Buddhist path came to be specified as ending ignorance and the cycle of birth and death. I actually think that came from Wikipedia. The Noble Eightfold Path is one of the principal summaries of the Buddhist teachings taught to lead to arhatship, Hinayana. In the Theravada tradition, this path is also summarized as sila, or morality, samadhi, meditation, and prajna, insight. Still early teachings. In Mahayana Buddhism, this path is contrasted with the Bodhisattva path, which is believed to go beyond arhatship to full Buddhahood. In Buddhist symbolism, the Noble Eightfold Path is often represented by means of the Dharma wheel, the Dharma chakra, in which its 8 spokes represent the 8 elements of the path. So there you have it. A very general, albeit, I think somewhat useful, hysteresis of the Eightfold Path and how it modifies over time. And that brings us to Nichiren's doctrine for this age of Mappo, right? So this is where I spent time digging into this Eightfold Path and what a path, a Buddhist path, actually means for you and I, our practice, right? You and me. Keep doing that. As for the Nichiren doctrine of Shakyamuni's ultimate teaching of the Lotus method, it is the Bodhisattva path of invoking the very inherent Buddha nature within the sentient mind, Gohonzon, that results in full engagement with the engine of life. Myoho Renge Kyo. The eighth part of samadhi is equitable to our fusion with the mandala to open the mind's eye, Gohonzon, and to experience Buddha-ness. The Eightfold Path becomes the one universal path of singular practice to open and experience enlightenment in one's present form. Because now, in this modern age, we have the capacity not only to realize that Buddha-ness, but that once realized, it will reverberate throughout all of our actions, right? Our views, our speech, our conduct, our livelihood, right? It kind of, once again, flips it on its head a little bit, but we're only able to do that because of our innate ability to awaken our Buddha. As Shakyamuni said to Shariputra in chapter 2 of the Lotus Sutra, tactfulness, or expedient means, states that only the singular path of practice of the Bodhisattva awakening can fulfill our attainment of Buddhahood. If you focus on just this one thing, all of the rest just happens. Super simple. It had to be, because in this age of incredible distractions constantly going on, we need something really direct to just make it happen. right? 27 centuries ago, there wasn't so much distraction. You were just plodding along every day doing the same old. So you could spend time observing your behaviors in all different aspects with society and get your aha moments all the time. But, observing those things today, bink, 10 seconds later, you're off watching another TikTok video. It's got to happen right now, or you're just going to lose your focus. That's the way the world is today. It's lamentable. It's a little scary. But here we have something we can absolutely do about it and have confidence, which is what this is all about, that it will reverberate and change everything. It just takes doing, right? So the Buddha addressed Shariputra. He said, and this is from the second chapter, right? The Hoban chapter. The Buddha Tathagatas teach only bodhisattvas. What? Yeah, until your mind gets to this dedicated observance of your enlightenment, Buddha is buried under all the distractions and samsaric preoccupations. So right off the bat, Buddha says, Shakyamuni says to Shariputra, the Buddha Tathagatas, right? Tathagatas being the spark of experience of Buddha, only comes to you when you endeavor at the level of bodhisattva. Everything else is just development in samsara. Wow, that's a big statement. That's what he starts off with. And then he says, whatever they do is only for one purpose, the bodhisattvas. That is, to take the Buddha knowledge inherent and reveal it to all living beings. This is also very important because when Shakyamuni identifies with Shariputra, he says, until you dedicate your life to enlightenment in every moment, not dedicate your life like notes on the refrigerator, dedicate your, in this moment, that resolve that you're going to instantiate Buddha. It comes part and parcel with the dedication to not only form this experience for yourself, but fully knowledgeable that in doing so you influence others. That is bodhisattva. I'm doing this for me and. And what they do is only for one purpose. That is to take the Buddha knowledge and reveal it to all living beings. And how do we reveal to all others anything? By being it. That's how the universe works. Right? Formation. Form. Influence. Karma. He continues, Shariputra, exclamation point. The Tathagata, by means of the one Buddha vehicle, preaches to all living beings the law, Myoho Renge-kyo. There is no other vehicle, neither a second nor a third. Shariputra, exclamation point. The laws of all the Buddhas in the universe are also like this. Shariputra, exclamation point. The Buddhas in times past, by infinite, numberless, and tactful ways, right? That's what this chapter is. And with various reasonings and parabolic expressions, expounded the laws, the truths, for the sake of all living beings. All these laws, truths, are for the one Buddha vehicle, so that all those living beings who have heard the law, the priori truth, Myoho Renge Kyo, from the Buddhas, might all finally obtain perfect knowledge, perfection of wisdom, prajna, insight, renge. I mean, he's pretty emphatic here, and that ends the quotation, which that should be in the quotation. All right, so I've obviously got some more edits to make. So what does that say to you? When I'll go ahead and finish because I'm going to repeat myself here. Within this quote, we see that the one teaching of the Lotus Sutra is indeed the culmination of all the previous preparatory teachings. From the Eightfold Path to the Shravaka school and the Pratyeka Buddha school, referenced as neither the second or the third in the above quotation. The end result and culminating teaching is singular and ultimate, the one Buddha vehicle. The one Buddha vehicle is the practice of chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. That's what this is saying. Namu being Nichiren's encapsulation, as I described earlier in previous video, our presence and dedication to this priori law, Myoho Renge Kyo, the Lotus Sutra, the Lotus method, the Lotus teaching. How many ways can we say it? Myoho Renge Kyo. This bodhisattva development and practice, then, is the one essential practice identified by Nichiren as the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. There we have it. So, once again, do not be misled that we are leaving teachings behind and learning and practicing something different to what Shakyamuni said all along. It's just that our capacity to understand and practice, not only because we're able to, but because in this time, this era of Mappo, the world is such that it is required in order to attain enlightenment that we practice in this way. Right? It's always the time and the capacity, not the one or the other. They go hand in hand. So for this time, this modern era, a 10,000-year period, the only practice that is actually able to instantiate our Buddha-ness is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, the one Buddha vehicle. All the other practices, they may be entertaining and insightful to study. Sure, study all of it, right? But to practice is to chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Those other practices, that's distraction. That's not going to get us enlightenment. Not in this age. We need this practice, this method, to instantiate, to know Buddha-ness. That should give you great confidence, yeah? Once again, I appreciate your listening, your participating, your practice. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Don't forget, your support means such a great deal to keeping this research, this engine of confidence working, this sangha of like-minded people. Just liking and subscribing does so much to help the algorithms support our sangha. If you can or you're able to support in other ways, buy an ebook. right? Or buy a print book if you're in the United States or North America. Printing and shipping is expensive. That's why the ebooks are popular, I think. A lot of us today like to read on our devices. I don't. I like a print book, but everyone has their preference, right? Make sure you have a digital copy of a Nichiren inscribed mandala. That's who we're following, emulating, is Nichiren, not some other Joe. And those of you who are contributing singularly or monthly, your patrons on Patreon or directly through PayPal, Namo Myoho Geikyo. Great Bodhisattvas. All of you, good friends, great Bodhisattvas, continue your practice. Please be kind to yourself. Take care of your health. Keep your practice strong, most of all. And I will see you in the next one. All right. Bye for now.